Hello, everyone. My name is Heidi Brown. I'm the CEO and editor-in-chief at Brilliance by Brown. And welcome to a next session of Skin Wellness, Masterclasses in Skin Wellness. Today, I am excited to be joined by Larry Green. Larry is the Health and Performance Global Program Lead at Google. He is also a noted global health and wellness professional. Larry, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Heidi. It's really exciting to be here and have a conversation with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your background and what you do at Google.
Yeah, so at Google, I run the operations for all of our health and wellness programs around the world. Before COVID, like in more of the typical sense, we had a number of sites that we operate around the world. I have a team that focuses on different regions around the world. We serve, the employee population with fitness centers. You can get a massage on site, classes, all of the different equipment, tools, programming, and knowledge that you need in order to maintain a healthy lifestyle when it comes to that front. And then when COVID hit, we did a hard pivot into the digital realm. And so we have a variety of different digital classes that are offered around the world in different, localized in different ways, different languages, et cetera, to enable people to help people continue their fitness journeys while they're at home.
Right, right. And I know that we've had discussions before with respect to not just fitness, but how you take care of your gut health, the foods that you consumed, really the notion around plant-based living, if you will. So with that, what's the meaning of a plant-based life for you?
Yeah, for me, a plant-based life, I try to keep it simple because I know there's that's a big domain. You double click into veganism, vegetarianism, and all the other types of isms that are out there. I personally just try to keep it simple. I look to eat things that grow out of the ground and basically stay away from meat. And like from a numerical point of view, the vast majority of what I eat is plants. And it's not to say that I don't like meat or don't eat meat. I might eat some nibbles of meat every now and then, but on a day in and day out basis, the vast majority of what I eat is plants.
And when did you make that decision? Were you influenced by your parents or, as you, started to research as you matured, the benefits of plant-based versus other types of diets, if you will?
Yeah, for me, it's been an interesting journey because I was in college. I was a college athlete, used to play basketball, played at the Naval Academy. And
Right.
so with that, as a college athlete, your fitness level is very, very important because it directly impacts how you perform in your sport. And so with that, I always paid attention to my diet, but at that time I was eating meat. But over the years, I tried to really pay attention to what types of meat I was eating. And so I looked to, get off of red meat, white meat, and then even more so fish, things like that. And then I would say up to maybe about 5 years ago, with meat, I would eat just lower portions. And so, for example, like for every portion of fish I had on my plate, I made a point to have at least 2 times as many greens on my plate. And then with that pattern, you bring that up to about a couple of years ago. And for me, I'm in my mid to late 40s now. And one thing I've been trying to do is just maintain my fitness level. And with that, and different cardio drills, exercises that I do to try to just maintain a baseline level of fitness. And I was doing this cardio exercise. It's pretty challenging. It's a Versa climber exercise. And I trained myself up for it, got to the point where I wanted to do this challenge piece, and I got to 90% completion, and I just ran out of gas. And I was like, oh man. And so the old competitor in me wanted to try it again, get back on the horse. And at that point in time, I came across this documentary called The Game Changers. It's pretty popular out there. and it just gets into plant-based eating and all the benefits of it. And that was something that I was aware of, but hadn't really practiced it strictly. And so I decided to, well, let me just give it a shot. And so I started training again, did everything the way I was doing it before. But the biggest change was just no meat. And I still was focused on no sugar, no processed flour and things like that, and just really dial it in. And so a few months later, tried that cardio challenge again, knocked it out of the park.
Right.
This was in the morning, worked a full day at work, and then came home and played basketball for 2 hours
Wow.
after. And then
Wow.
I was a little sore at the end of the day, but I wasn't like spent or exhausted.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I was pretty much okay. I was so, I was like, you know what, plant-based is it. I'm good to go.
Right, right, right. Do you think that, as you age, that there's more importance to lean more on plants? So that's anything from, legumes to vegetables, obviously fruits, um, to lean into those for nourishment. And I say that because as we age, I know protein is very important. Um, uh, and making sure that you have foods that don't inflame your system is
Mhm,
also very important,
mhm.
um, which eventually affects your skin, right? So what are your thoughts about aging and a plant-based life?
Yeah, I think it's one of the secret weapons. I'll just put it that way. It is one of those things that can really help with longevity and performance. And you touched on it. It gets into a variety of different benefits on the inside with your organs as well as the outside with your skin, complexion, your energy. And I even say just with how you show up in the world, just with energy levels and how you can engage. One thing for me, kind of going back on the sports side, like I'll be 48 in a couple months here,
You
but
look 35, Larry.
oh, I appreciate that. Well, it's funny because that's actually one of the interesting things because I have kids, I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
My youngest is 19.
Yes.
One of the things from a longevity life point of view is I want to be able to be as active and be as engaged as I can in my kids' lives as much as possible. And in my son's case, sometimes that may mean if we're at the park, shooting basketball, and if there's a pickup game happening, being able to physically jump in, although I don't compete, at a high level anymore.
Great.
But like if there's an opportunity to, hey, let's jump in and play because it's spending time with my son, it's fun. And then the competitor side of me is like, well, let me see if I can hold it down for a little bit and compete. And I granted as time goes on, that situation will change, but I want to hold on to it for as long as possible. But it's funny when I'm in situations like that, playing pickup ball with other players that are I'm like 20 years older than them.
Right.
They think I'm either in my late 20s or early 30s. And I tell them, no, I'm 47, 48. My best playing days are behind me. Or then I'll start getting into when I was your age, I could really do this, and this. This is the talking piece of it. But they really take interest. And then a couple of them start asking, well, what's your secret? Like part of it's skill and ability, but the other piece is longevity. And that's when I start getting into my plant-based sermon that I give them, and to stay away from processed sugar, for all the different things that are out there that can just erode you, like that.
Yeah. So give me an example of how you start your day, the foods that you eat, from breakfast to lunch to snacks in between to dinner. What do you typically eat?
Yeah, typically what I do, and I answer it in 2 ways because I manage my eating from a timing point of view, and I try to be more strategic with how I eat versus just eating all day, all the time based on what's around.
Right.
So the mornings I get up, and actually I have this little personal physical activation routine that I do just to get myself going, some stretches, some core stuff before I sit down and do my work here on screen. And then for breakfast, I'll normally go with something that's not full in terms of like heavy. So like something like oatmeal is what I typically do. Cook some oatmeal. I mix in some almonds and I mix in honey as well. and then just nibble on that. And that'll tend to tide me over, at least until the lunchtime hour. And then at lunch, between my wife and my family and I, we'll have a variety of different plant-based meals. I'm more of the plant-based eater than everybody else in my family, but I've been able to help train them to dad's going to get the plant-based option, or don't put meat on his plate and like that. And I'll usually it can run the range, different salads, vegetables, tofu is another one that I eat as well, legumes, lentils. There's a variety of just different dishes that I do, but I try not to eat huge portions, partly because I'm not in college basketball mode anymore, where I'm, playing and lifting and all that, just more so for energy maintenance.
Right.
Then in the dinner time hour, I usually try to eat more of a lighter meal in terms of portion size. And I try to make it a point to stop eating no later than 6:30 ish.
Okay.
Because that way, because I try to get to bed between 9:30 every night. And with that, I try to stop eating at least a few hours before then. That way it's fully digested. And that way, when I go to sleep, my body can focus on regenerating, replenishing myself versus trying to do two things at once,
Mhm.
which tends to be more of a less impactful sleep situation.
Right. In terms of what you drink, are you drinking a lot of water?
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I mean, do you really have to drink 8 glasses of water a day?
Well, I actually don't count this as one of my little cups here.
Okay.
I drink ice water. It's like, it looks like a coffee cup. It is a coffee cup. But what I do is I just fill that up with ice and I just sip on it throughout the day. I got a couple little water containers here. And so, from a measurement point of view, I actually don't know how much I'm drinking on average per day, but I do just make it a practice just to consistently sip. And
Right.
and one way to check your hydration, obviously, is like through urine. Like the lighter your urine color, the more hydrated you typically are. And so I'll just go with those kind of back of the hand, back of the napkin anecdotes there.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you, I grew up actually eating a lot of whole foods, not frozen foods. My mom cooked fresh foods, fresh meats. My parents actually belonged to a co-op, food co-op, way before Whole Foods. We're talking, I'm a 60s baby. Uh, and so I think that that's where I was influenced in terms of how I eat today. But for a while, I was a vegetarian and then I was a vegan. And as I have matured and also dealing with menopause, I have introduced more fish to make sure I get enough protein.
Mhm,
Also dealing with hormonal imbalance.
mhm.
But with that said, uh, do you get enough protein if you are conducting a pure plant-based diet?
I feel I do, because when I went pure plant based from that fitness performance routine that I was doing a couple of years ago,
Right.
maintained that consistently, and in my routine when it comes to protein intake, I tend to quickly lean on lentils, kale, a lot of your high protein vegetables or legumes
Mhm.
that give you the most, nutrition per bite is how I think about it.
Right.
And and the way I do it, I go more of the applied version of, if I'm doing my fitness workouts, either with lifting weights or cardio work, and like the eyeball test, like how do I physically look in terms
Right.
of maintaining that? Am I, gaining, losing, etc. And over these past couple years, I've been able to maintain, because I'm at my college basketball playing weight, and I last time I played college basketball was 26, I think, years ago,
Yeah.
and so I got physically in the same bill. I can't jump like I used to, but it is what it is.
So the
But
Lakers are not calling you up anytime soon, maybe, who knows?
yeah, I don't think they are, but that might be able to pass the eyeball test. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, but in terms of like protein, my protein intake, I just think about it in terms of output and performance. I've been able to maintain, levels of performance in terms of fitness and
Right.
muscle ability over the years. I'm like, yeah, that's a good enough, check for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I will tell you that my diet, again, it leans into plant-based, a lot of fish, a lot of fatty fish like salmon. I love trout. Branzino is another favorite. And I have also found, just in terms of maintenance, to your point, as you age, that my energy level is quite high. I also do supplements as well as protein shakes, right? And in terms of sugars, I do some dried fruits like cranberries, but I always make sure that they're not sweetened, or the way that they're sweetened without white sugar or processed sugar. Um, what are your thoughts about dried fruits versus fruits? And do you have a sweet tooth at all? I mean, do you indulge at all?
Yeah, I do have a sweet tooth. And it's funny with the whole topic of sugar, the first thing I think about is, well, sugar is technically a plant. And so
Right, it's true. That's true.
it's a dangerous plant based on how the sugar is processed.
Yeah.
And you obviously shouldn't do everything, everything in moderation, obviously. But yeah, I do have a sweet tooth. I don't think I've ever run into a chocolate chip cookie that I have never not liked.
I'm there with you. Okay. Yes.
I'm an apple pie fan, and apples are fruit, so all that. But when it comes to sweets and fruits, and I'll just say sugar altogether. But in my view, regular fruits and the sugar that comes out of that, I know there are thoughts out there that fruit can be bad, quote unquote, because of the sugar content. The way I think about it is it's a naturally recurring sugar. That plus moderation, plus your vegetables, plus water, everything in balance. It's actually okay. Dried fruit as well, and even honey, because I know honey technically comes from an insect, and so I know there's that argument out there: is it a vegan or vegetarian food or not? I eat honey. I like it.
Great. So do I. Yeah.
Yeah, and so with the sweeteners in that realm, number one, I do my best to stay away from processed sugar. And as a side note, I also do sports training. I do basketball training with young players now. That's mainly how I show up in the basketball world, is with training and fitness
Great.
in that regard. And I tell players, up and coming players, sugar, processed sugar, is a form of legalized drugs, quote unquote. I'm like, it does nothing for you. If you
Yeah.
got a sweet tooth, go raw sugar, go honey, fruit, etc. With water, things like that. But yeah, your processed sugar and processed flour too.
Hmm.
Those things do nothing for you in terms of where you're trying to go with your basketball goals or your fitness goals, and then let alone just what it does to you over time, to your body.
Right. Right. Yeah. Just in terms of shifting diet and longevity and your skin health, and what we grew up eating, and in particular in the Black community, it seems to be an issue with respect to sugar and, inflammation of the body, which leads to diabetes and other issues. How do we talk to, our grandparents or some of our contemporaries about, how to swap out, you can have mac and cheese, or maybe have organic dairy, or white cheddar, organic white cheddar versus, the yellow cheddar. If you're going to do pasta, think about a different kind of pasta that you can substitute from what you normally eat, because it is an issue. And I know that the pandemic clearly revealed the health issues within the Black and Brown communities.
Yeah, it's a challenging one, and for me, and this might be the same with you as well. At my age, like since I've been in my 40s now, I'm at that point in life where different relatives or friends are passing away,
Yeah.
in my opinion, way sooner than they should have. Like some old classmates from high school and college, passed away of a heart attack at 44, stuff like that. Um, And then even older relatives, because in my family, the men in my family tend to not stick around that long. Like if you make it to your mid late 60s, that's usually when most of the men in my family, finish up.
Yeah,
And which is scary because if I did the math with how old I am now versus that, I'm like, I want to stick around a whole lot longer than that.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so with that, this is kind of, I know this is kind of from a grim point of view, but over the years between going to funerals or hearing about different people that have passed away, and then you kind of reminisce on different lives and things like that. And for me, with some of these friends I'm referring to, we reminisce and talk about things, and then the conversation can tend to come back around to, wow, LG, that's my nickname. You look like the way you did back in the 90s. Like
Right.
what have you been doing? And I just use it as an opportunity to say, hey, here's what I've been doing. And here's why. I consider myself an old gym rat, and I just want to keep doing the things I was doing. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Tweak it, over time because as life goes on. And I've been able to use that as just an avenue just to just introduce that, hey, we have choices. There's different ways to do it. It's not, and again, it's not like I'm against meat type of thing. I don't land that far on the spectrum with it. I still, bacon is amazing,
Right. Right.
but yeah, I just help people to understand that you have a choice.
Mhm.
And when you make choices that empower yourself with your nutrition over time, that can tend to work out in your favor. And in my personal example, so far it's been hanging in there pretty good. And so that's the approach that I've been doing. And try not to be judgmental with it, but just to help people understand that, yeah, there's other ways to do this.
Yes, yes, and that's definitely good advice, and I love that approach. Coupled with circulation, it's important to move your body. Clearly, from a high standard as a college athlete or a professional athlete, to someone who's just working at home. You're at your desk. That it's important to get up, once an hour, stretch, walk around, start your day perhaps with a walk. Some kind of cardio activity is equally important to what you consume, which again nets out to better skin health. So with that, Larry, any tips that you can provide to us with respect to recipes or people you follow or who you've been influenced by? You're doing wonderful work, and I follow you and I follow what you're doing at Google, but more importantly, what you do outside of Google, just in terms of promoting wellness and plant-based living and the like.
Yeah, good question. Wow. I actually follow a few folks. Well, Tabitha Brown comes to mind. She has a lot of neat things going there. Um, wow, that's a good one. There are a lot of people that have a lot of great things out there. I'll just put it that way. Grant, I did just call out Tabitha's name, but there's many others. Personally, I tend to pay more attention to those who look like me
Mhm.
because there's a certain level of connection there,
Sure.
um, especially if they've had a similar background in terms of their nutrition journey.
Mhm.
You know, high off the hog type of stuff to more plant based living, and so that connects. And so with that, there's a bunch of recipes, ideas, and things out there. I can probably share some more with you later, but I'm drawing a blank on some of them now because I
No,
just
it's what you've shared this far is helpful in terms of Tabitha. I don't know her, and I will definitely look her up. On our company website, we are going to launch information with respect to plant-based living and
Mm.
resources to support folks in that realm. Again, all in the purpose of aging well and skin wellness and how we really do excellence in a way that supports us living in a more balanced and healthier mindset, right? I know I said a lot there.
Excellent. That sounds great. You're putting all those resources out there, and then yeah, there's a broad net of things that are out there, and yeah, the more the better that you can put out there, yeah, for the audience.
Right. Well, Larry, I want to thank you so much for your time today. It is it's wonderful that you've spent um, uh, the time to speak with us about plant-based living and how it definitely supports and promotes better quality of life. That's really what I've gleaned from this discussion. And for everyone who has reviewed the session or check into this session, um, thank you for your time. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you for the time. It was great to talk.
Absolutely.